This one today is an interview I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And I'm so happy that he agreed to join me because today we have former Jungle Cruise skipper, former Imagineer, set decorator, and show writer of Trader Sam's, author, creative superstar. And you ready for this one?
Uh-oh.
Rock on tour, Trader Brandon. Brandon, thanks so much for joining me today.
How are you, man? Good to see you.
I am good. I am well. I am
Yeah.
well. Man, there's so many topics we're going to discuss today. We're talking a little bit about it before we jumped on. Of course, we'll talk about Trader Sam's, but there's so much more stuff that I want to talk about with you
Sure.
today. And I think one place I really want to start is before anything Disney, really, even before I know you're a former Jungle Cruise skipper out in
Yeah.
Disneyland.
Yeah.
I know when you were a kid, a young adult, you were an actor and
Yeah.
you had some roles in films and TV. What compelled you to start acting? And then how did you start getting roles? Because I know you grew up in Central Florida, right?
I did. I did. But I grew up in Central Florida at a time when Central Florida was the East Coast Hollywood.
Right.
So it was easy to get work because they were working here. Disney MGM Studios was a functioning studio. Universal Studios was a functioning studio. Now it's hard for people to realize that don't, the general public that don't realize. But yeah, no, they were functioning studios. So yeah, I worked all the time over there. I started in theater up in Daytona Beach, up the road here, and did that. My first paying job, I was 7 years old. I got $75 a week,
Nice.
which is pretty great.
Sweet money.
And thankfully, knock on wood, wherever here, I've been a working paid person ever since,
Yeah.
in a variety of things. But yeah, started when I was 7, and then Universal. I did almost every TV show at Nickelodeon at Universal during that time. I was on Nick News. I was on the pilot for Gullah Gullah Island.
Wow.
I was on all that. I was in a Good Burger skit on all that. Uh, what else? What else do we film over at Nickelodeon? Tons of stuff at Nickelodeon. And then on the other side of the coin, tons of stuff at Disney. I've done Illuminations commercials way back when. The Disney Easter Parade. Somebody on Twitter just tagged me in a photo. They were like, I think that's, and a photo I'd never seen
Yeah.
from the Easter Parade. Did the original, for those of you listening, if you have the original Disney MGM Studios brochure that was not the park map, but the brochure that was like at Denny's,
Yeah.
and you could get at the truck stops, like that
Mhm.
one. I think it's a purple cover. It's got Tower of Terror on it. If you unfold to your Art of Disney Animation trifold page, I'm the kid with the giant coif of red hair
Wow.
on that. Yeah, so yeah, it was a lot going on in Florida, but there was a lot happening in the mid to late 80s in the state of Florida as far as filming.
There was a lot. One episode that I think I'm going to do eventually is I want to focus on all the wrestling stuff that was filmed
Sure.
just at MGM or even Universal. There's a lot. It's really
Well, and
cool.
and you can't not talk about the genius that is
Thunder in Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise. I
Hang
mean,
on,
come
come
on,
on. Ridiculous.
come on.
Yeah. The greatest
It
worst show
makes me
ever.
so sad it's not on DVD, and I'm sure people listening are going, "What the heck is Thunder in Paradise?" Yeah, Thunder in Paradise was awesome, and I watched it just because I liked seeing the parks.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only reason I watched it. It wasn't a good show by any
No.
means, let's be honest. But it was so great to be like, oh, they've got to go to Morocco, and you're like, that's just the indie stunt show.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the stunt, and not just use the sets, but like they did the show. Like, those were the gags. It was, well, there goes Hulk Hogan up the ladder. Oh, he's
Yeah.
gonna hit the guy. Like, it was so good.
I've seen
But
this one before. Yeah.
but at the same time, what a brilliant way to do that show. Like, what an ingenious way to do that.
Yeah, and it just I don't know. I mean, I know why it didn't take off as well as Disney and Universal anticipated or wanted, but
Sure.
it's cool to reflect on those things.
It's a good period of history.
Do you have you ever seen the Orange Years on Hulu, the documentary?
Yes.
So
Yes. I
good.
just I just watched that the other day, and I was like, talk about flashbacks. I was like, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, it was nuts of all the things that I went, yeah, I was there for all that. I mean, it's crazy.
That's so cool.
Nickelodeon offices were amazing. They were, executive offices, but they had like giant slime tubes going up the wall. I mean, it was just such a great, great place. And yeah, so many people on there. And I was like, oh, I remember working for her, and I remember her. Like, it was nuts. Yeah, it was really cool to watch that.
What was the Good Burger skit? Do you recall what the gags were?
And it's funny too, because now with Paramount Plus, I've been flipping around and going through all that episodes on there, and I can't find the darn thing. And I know I did it,
Yeah.
and I've never seen it to this day. I remember I was flipping burgers in the back, just doing my thing. And for some reason, I want to say, which you'd think would be easy to find that way, but I haven't found it, and I don't even think it's on his IMDb. But I want to say that Malcolm Jamal Warner directed the All That episode that I was in.
Oh, wow.
So I went back to his IMDb the other day and looked it up, and it's not even on there. But I'm like, why would I remember that if it wasn't true? Like, that's so random. But yeah, just flipping burgers like you do.
Cool. I mean, that's what you do at Good Burger. That's your job
when you work at Good Burger. Sure.
Yeah. Home of the Good Burger. So you go out to California at some point in your life. Was that an acting motivated move out there?
Yeah. I was doing Children of the Corn 4.
Yes.
And we shot that in Texas, and then we did reshoots in California. And first time I'd been to California, so I was like, okay. And went out there and just went, hey, this place is great. The weather's great. Everybody's working. Everybody's, and this was 96, 95, 96. So yeah, it was a really cool place to be at that time for me. I remember one of the first things I went out there that you went, oh yeah, this is Hollywood, is I went to the farmer's market. Over by CBS, and went to the farmer's market, walking around, and ran into Lauren Bacall.
Wow.
And I went, yeah, this is Hollywood.
What fruit was she picking out?
Yeah, I don't remember. But I do remember everybody was like, here you are, Mrs. Bacall. Like, everybody knew her order. She, it was a regular, oh, it's Tuesday, here she comes. Like, and you just went, oh, God, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I ran into Mickey Rooney once at a little collectible shop. He was flipping through old lobby cards, and you were just like, this is weird. This is Hollywood. Yeah. But I don't remember what you started the question with on that one. I got caught on Lauren Bacall.
You go out, as we all do.
Yeah, I know. I'd throw you for a loop anytime.
You go out there to kind of pursue acting. But at one point, you decide, what? I want to work at Disneyland as well. What drew you to that, knowing that you went out there for acting, but you know what? I want to work at this theme park as well.
You hit an age as an actor, as a child actor, where you're not going to work for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a thing. You're too young to play an adult, and you're too old to play a kid. So you don't work. So that was when I started learning about writing, and I started learning about editing, and I bought my big Apple computer with Final Cut Pro and all that. And I had friends that did special effects makeup. So that was when I would go over to hang out at the shop with them, and I learned how to do fiberglass and how to pour molds and how to stuff. And in the middle of all that, I was like, I'm going to work at Disneyland. Disneyland was an hour and a half away from my house, just for the record. It was not a smart move to go work at Disneyland by any means. My paycheck went into food and gas. Like, I made nothing working at Disneyland. And despite however many hours I worked, I could never get my weekly check like over $300.
Yeah.
Like, it just would, I'd be doing 80-hour weeks, and you're like, still didn't cross $300. Yeah. So yeah, it would go into food and gas. But it was great, and it was a blast, and I loved it, and I miss it. I still miss it. I'd go drive boats anytime. But it was great, and it was a learning curve, and got to know that park really well. And I still always recommend that people that want to work in theme parks go work in the park.
Yeah.
I don't care what park, doesn't matter what park. Go work in a park and understand what the operation is, understand guest flow, understand hourly capacities, it'll all come back and help you later. But yeah, you can't read in a book what you can learn by working in a park. It's a whole thing that everybody should do.
I'm a former cast member as well. I worked front desk at Yacht and Beach Club, and I worked
Okay.
on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in
Okay.
Magic Kingdom. So I think you're spot on with that. You gain so much more. I guess you understand so much more, but also at the same time, you gain a greater appreciation of the cast members that work in there every
Oh,
single day.
sure.
So when you become a guest again, it's I don't know. You smile at cast members more. You might treat them a little better.
You're
You
nicer.
know
Yeah.
the
Well,
craft that they experience.
and it helps tremendously later on down the line when you're designing stuff.
Yeah,
When you go, that sounds great on paper, but it's not gonna happen. That's no guest is gonna do that, and no cast members get sounds great on paper, but that's not how the park operates. It's not how it's gonna do. Which I always kind of laugh with the big fireworks shows that drive me crazy. That I go, no fireworks show should shut down a park for 20 minutes.
yeah,
That means you aren't familiar with that park. Like,
right.
you shouldn't do that, because it will destroy everything that the cast has worked for that day to get going. When you bottleneck everyone into one lane of traffic on Main Street, it's just like, don't do that. But
It becomes a completely different atmosphere and not necessarily for the better at all.
No,
with
absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. And especially when people are paying so much nowadays for their trips, and they're like, I don't care about the fireworks. I want to go ride this. And you go, well, you can't. Mine Train's closed during the fireworks. And you're like, why? Why would that? Well, I'll go ride Snow White. Can't do that either. That one's closed. And you're like, what? Yeah, it's just weird.
It's funny. I had a cast member who was my coworker at Mine Train, who she had previously worked out in Disneyland on Jungle Cruise.
Okay.
And she told me something, and I'd never been on Jungle Cruise out there before, but the guns that you have in the Disneyland version, they're still real. You're shooting blanks, right?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
So was there something where if the boat like stops working or whatever, there's a distress signal?
Yeah, so the guns actually serve a purpose. They're not just
for show
to make you feel cool. Like, they actually serve a purpose. The guns are great. The guns are Smith & Wessons. They weigh a ton. They're real. Like, it's cool, know. And I'm not a gun guy by any means, but if I'm in a boat in the 1930s going into the jungle, I'm taking something with me.
I got some heat.
Like whatever. And I used to really lean into it when I would unload a boat. And then you'd have this little area on the dock called No Man's Land, which you were between the unloaded boat and the boat that was loading. So I would always reload my gun there. And every little kid's just, up on the railing watching you, and it's real serious, pulling out bullets, and you'd load it in, and I'd get it spinning and click it into place. And, it was just fun. But the guns serve a purpose, and the guns out there are really to tell the other boats where you are. So it's a timing thing for one. So if I'm in the hippo pool where we shoot the guns, the boat in front of me at the camp or wherever knows, ooh, he's right behind me. I got to wrap this joke up and keep moving. Or the guy coming through the African Veldt goes, ooh, I got to slow down and let's talk about the rocks on the beach a little more, because he's only just now gotten into the hippo pool. So that's one purpose. The other purpose is the fact that, yes, you have let's see if I can remember all these. You have 3 gunshots if your motor stalls out. You have 4 gunshots if it's a medical emergency. And 6 gunshots if you have derailed your boat.
Oh boy.
Quick story about
the derailing of the boat. Empty the magazine.
I got a good story about that. So one night I'm up at the dock, and I'm sitting in the office and doing stuff, and we hear 6 gunshots. And again, the guns also, you have walkie-talkies and stuff in your boat, but it's loud and stuff's going on and they're hid, so that's again another reason why let's just start shooting in the air. So we hear the 6 gunshots and we go, oh, okay. So we start procedure, and we start, all right, bring that boat in, you guys go up here, unload those, because we got to jump in a boat and go find the boat that's 6 shot. So we get in the boat. We always used to play it up. We had, tow ropes around us, and we always looked like, there they go. we're getting into the boat and we hear 6 more shots. And we're like, okay, it's either A, they didn't think we heard the first 6 gunshots,
Yeah.
which again, they're loud.
Yeah.
Or B, someone else derailed at the same time. We get out there, the first boat derailed twice.
Oh, what?
So we get in the hippo pool and that boat is just bouncing around in the hippo pool. Both guides had come off the track.
Wow.
And maintenance came out. We got it back on the track backwards. And we had to unload the boat through the windows on the other side once it got into the dock. But I will say, funny enough, Jungle Cruise is the one ride that everything can go wrong and nobody ever complains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's just part of the adventure. Like, you know,
Sometimes
there's a few of us that laugh, but I go, I would have done anything to have been on that sinking boat in Florida.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
I would have done anything to have been on that.
Yeah. Now,
gross, and that water's disgusting, but that's the adventure you want. Like that's the reason you ride that ride.
Now, the captain always goes down with the ship. Does the captain of the Jungle Cruise always go down with the ship while telling jokes, or is there a time and place you just stop?
I feel if you were really into it, you would tell a joke until that last person has been rescued out of your boat.
Ah, yes, very good. Very.
I feel
good.
you just go for it.
What was your spiel? Did you have any? You can't add ones in, or you have to get to a certain point in tenure where you can kind of play with the spiel, right?
When I was there, which was 2005, it was for the 50th anniversary. So, there was a lot of spotlight on the park then. We had every one of the original attractions had a vehicle, one of the ride vehicles painted gold.
Gotcha.
For the 50th. So I usually drove the gold boat frequently. The Congo Queen was painted gold. So yeah, there was a lot of people, a lot of eyes on us. But the jokes are good. You just got to know how to sell them, so I never really added my own stuff. I just would go through and eventually get to a spiel that I knew worked, and I would just work it until you knew I can get a joke out of, I can get a laugh out of every one of those jokes.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
And it was just timing, and it was just delivery, and you don't need to make up your own. Most of the time they're not that funny anyhow. But the jokes work, so just use them. My spiel was kind of Don Ricklish, took it very serious. If you'd come around, oh, what river are we? If you don't believe us, you're in denial. Everybody was going to say denial.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would just rip them apart, and just lay into them.
Yeah.
Everybody do the backside of water, so I just wouldn't even bother. I'd set them up and I'd just chuck the mic down, like, go ahead, knock yourselves out, you know. And it was fine, so yeah, you just kind of figure out what works, and then you just work it until it does work.
Yeah, like any comedian, you got to get up there, you got to work your set and get that material.
And after a month and 20,000 trips around the water, if it doesn't work, cut it. Like, yeah. Okay, it doesn't work, pick another joke. But yeah, you just gotta work them.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick break and mention a sponsor of the show we have today. And the sponsor is actually a complete shameless plug, because we're talking about my travel agent services. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you probably know just how difficult it is these days to plan a great trip to Walt Disney World. Even in the past few years, since the WDW Opinion podcast has started, it's only really become more confusing to get to Walt Disney World. Things like knowing when to book, knowing how to book and what to book, how to navigate around the parks with so many new additions, or even how to navigate all of the new technology you have to know about on your Walt Disney World vacation. It can all be challenging, whether it's understanding the new Disney Genie service, or what Magic Mobile service is, or how to book park pass reservations and why all of these new reservation systems are in place. It can seem like you practically need a master's degree in Disney to understand it all. Well, that's where your boy Connor comes in to play. Because as a Disney fanatic, I know Walt Disney World like the back of my hand. As a travel agent that specializes in Disney vacations, I participate in regular training that not only lets me know about the new things going on at Walt Disney World, but it also keeps me up to date with the vacation package offers, the deals, the specials that are currently going on. And I'm really able to stay in the loop because of my training as a Disney travel agent. And as a former Walt Disney World cast members, I have the behind the scenes expertise that I can share with you to help you navigate the parks like a pro. All these elements combined, me being a Disney fanatic, me being a Disney travel agent, me being a former Walt Disney World cast member, combine them all, and that makes me the perfect fit to help you when it comes to booking your next perfect Disney vacation. I do the boring stuff, like finding deals, booking the trip, waiting on hold with Disney for hours on the phone, waking up super early to get those must-do dining reservations and special event tickets. I do that all so you don't have to. Let me do this for you so that you can focus on the most important part of a Disney vacation, and that's having fun. You have the fun, I do the lame stuff to ensure you have an even better time. And guess what, Opinioneers? The best part about this service? It's 100% free to use. You don't have to pay a dime to utilize my expertise. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and in fact, it can even help you save money because I am constantly looking for the best offers and the best deals that fit you and your family perfectly. But listen, don't just take my word for it. Hear from clients who have already utilized my services, like David M. from Maryland, who says, when it comes to mapping out what would be the best each day, what restaurants would be open or closed, what the flow would be like in the parks each day based on what was open, which even was changing when we arrived, Connor was always on point and had anticipated our needs. You should really take the time to invest in Connor's services. You won't be disappointed. Thank you, David, for that kind review. And if you are ready to book your next trip, whether it's to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or Adventures by Disney, reach out to me at Connor, C-O-N-O-R, at WDWOpinion.com, and I can help you with all of that. That is Connor, C-O-N-O-R, at WDWOpinion.com. Again, Connor, C-O-N-O-R, at WDWOpinion.com, and I can help you plan your next perfect Disney vacation with this free-to-use service. You'd also be helping out the show a lot if you chose me for these services. Again, Connor, C-O-N-O-R, at WDWOpinion.com. Send an email over to me. I'd love to help. Now, let's get back to the show. So you're a jungle cruise skipper. You're working out there in Disneyland, and at the time you were also friends with some Imagineers, and in particular Josh Shipley, who was Imagineer at the time. And the story, as you've told it, is you go up to Josh and you basically say, "I want to work in Imagineering. How are we going to get this done?" And
as everybody does,
as you have
what do you got to do to work here? I want to work here,
Then you go up to him and he helps you out. And what are your first roles at Imagineering?
Yeah. No, it was definitely the perfect timing. So yeah, this was a number of years after I'd worked at Disneyland. So yeah, I had put in about a year and a half at the park, and then I was like, okay, I'm this is stupid. I live an hour and a half away. This is just dumb. Like, we got to stop. But I mean, I've got it on my shelf over here, that big Imagineering book that's
I got it over my shelf over there.
The original one, the first one.
Yeah.
You had that growing up. So yeah, you always want to work at WGI. And yeah, again, the timing of it all was, we had met, and I didn't really know him, but knew him enough to go, "Hey, what do you got to do to work here?" And that night he called and texted and was like, "Hey, shoot me your resume real quick. you know, Photoshop and everything. And I said, yeah, I can do that, no problem. And then 2 days later, I had a job. Like, it was
Wow.
literally right place, right time.
Wow.
Okay. And yeah, so at the time he was running the dimensional design department, which was basically a fancy way of saying the print shop. So it was all the large format printers, presentation boards, artwork, attraction posters for the tunnels, you know, whatever, anything that came out of a printer was there. And then he had gotten pulled on a little temporary assignment to go be show director on Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Gotcha.
So he went and did that, and I said, I'll take care of the printers. I had no idea how to work any of them. Like, I had no clue. But figured it out. I mean, it's not rocket science. You figure it out and you go, oh, okay, those are the paper types, and that's, you know, and you play in Photoshop, and all right, fine. So I did that for 2 years. And it was a funny job because it was, you know, it's not really rocket science, but I knew everything that was happening in that company for 2 years.
Wow.
Because everything came through me to print. So I knew every pitch. I knew every concept. I knew there was nothing happening in Imagineering that I didn't know about, because I saw it all, and I printed it all, and I mounted it all, and I went, here's your presentation boards, good luck, you know, like stuff like that. So it was a fun way to understand how the company worked and what kind of stuff they were wanting, what kind of stuff didn't work to the higher ups, because you suddenly wouldn't print those boards again. You'd print those boards again. You went, oh, so they like that, you know, so you could really dig in and learn from it, which was cool. And then he came back, and that was the first time I got laid off at WDI. And then I just said, hey, you know, if you guys need anything, let me know. I'm around. I'm right up the road. I'm a train right away. Anything you need, give me a call. And they did for a while. I mean, I was stage manager on playtest for New Fantasyland, like the Bell meet and greet, and there were some others at the time. Did some lighting on those, did just a bunch of random things that they would literally call the morning of and go, hey, can you get here in an hour? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm good. You know, as long as they knew, as long as they caught me before the train left, I was in, you know, and I would go in and work all week and go away. And then the last one was props. Can you come in and help the prop department out with some stuff? And I said, sure, no problem. And then that was 8 years later.
Man, you know, I was just reading Kevin Rafferty's book, and I think he started out in the print shop as well. And he or I think it was a print shop, because I remember him saying how he would lay out everything. He would lay out presentations and stuff like that. And you kind of learn the people who are coming in and make those connections and stuff. So it might not seem like the, you know,
it seems like a very thankless, like non-creative, I don't want to do that. It's a good gig. Like it's you're in the room where it happens, you know, like that's it. They're calling you, you know, to make sure you do this. And then you're like, okay, great. And everybody in the company knows you, because they go, oh, well, you got to call him. He'll get it printed. Oh, go see Brandon real quick. He'll get it mounted, you know, whatever. So it's, it may not seem like it, but it's a sweet gig.
Sweet gig, good for networking, all that, but you're able to transition into the props department at Imagineering. And I feel like that's where you really got to work on some absolutely incredible projects.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because again, coming from printing and all that, and looking at how many things never happened, you know, how many things never saw the light of day. Whereas by the time it comes across your desk in the prop department, it's going in.
Right.
So, you know, I'm very fortunate to have worked on 30 some things that people actually know, because there's people there that have worked for 40 years that might have 2 things that people know, you know, because none of the other ones have ever been built. So it's kind of crazy, but it's nice. It's fun.
It's very interesting how you worked the 2 ends of the spectrum, you know. Very early beginning, this thing's happening. It's happening. I'm putting in the props here or there.
And then, by the time it comes across your desk in props, it's being built, you know, there's blueprints and it's going. So it's crazy.
You mentioned it a little bit that when you got out to California, you were, you know, working with your friends on building props or sets or whatever. But when you got to the prop department, how big of a background did you have in creating the props, set design, or was there a lot of learning on the job?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My boss at the time said, because I had gone in to document props, just take pictures of props. That was what the initial phone call was. Can you come in and help document props? And I said, sure, I'll come in and take pictures for you, no problem. I get there and they go, do you know how to use eBay? And I said, yeah, I know how to use eBay. Do you know how to use Photoshop? Yeah, I can do Photoshop. Do you know how to use Excel? Yeah, sure. I still don't know how to use. I hate Excel. But I went, okay, fine. And they went, well, here you go. Thump. And it was 2 vacation club kiosks for Tokyo.
Gotcha.
Were the first things that I did. And it was okay. Here's the backstory. Here's the concept art. Okay, decorate it. And I mean, I have, plenty of stuff here at home, and my little study here is full of props and everything else. So my knowledge of props was primarily the ones I collect at home. Over on this wall is 3 proton packs and that sort of stuff. So yeah, there was a learning curve, but at least I wasn't completely in the dark. I mean, I had knowledge of props from doing movies and TV. I had knowledge of them from collecting them myself. I had, so I wasn't completely in pitch black, but definitely, I mean, I'm still learning. I mean, if you want to go into props, you got to understand history, and you got to know time periods, and you got to know, all that stuff. The fact that shovels have a different handle in the 1900s than they do in the 1960s. I mean, stuff like that you wouldn't think about, but sure enough, if you're going through Big Thunder, that's a modern day shovel. It would stand out. You would know it, as opposed to an old wooden D-handled shovel. So yeah, stuff like that is still always learning that, because it's there's so much stuff in the world. You can't possibly know it all. But yeah, it's a fun learning experience.
I think those little details, though, are so important, especially for Disney and Universal. It might seem like a shovel, but it's not. It's a part of the story. It's crucial, and you got to get that right.
Yeah, time periods are a big thing, and I feel like every ride should be set in a time period, because that's what makes it different than real life. It's like, I don't want to see things that I can literally go to Target and buy. I want to go, it's part of the whole transported to something else experience, so it's it gets crazy. You get in the weeds finding some stuff that's like, man, look at that thing, weird stuff from the 20s and the 30s. It's like, oh my God, that's a vacuum, stuff like that.
Well, there goes my idea. I was going to pitch you on a ride. It was called Target the Ride. You're just going to go through Target,
Listen,
Walmart the Ride is much more scarier.
My share of executives that don't understand the fact that we don't just go to Target to buy props. No, sorry, we don't. Occasionally, it's really last second and really desperate, just to put something there until you have the time to do something. But even then, that's more Pier 1 and Home Goods. You can find some good stuff in there every once in a while.
Home Goods, you can definitely find
good stuff in there.
Tchotchkes. Probably what you're most well known for in your Imagineering career is your work on Trader Sam's. And I know that there's this great Trader Sam's story that you tell about. You were in the props department for just a couple weeks, and you're sitting at your computer. You read this post from the Disney Parks blog that says, hey, we're excited to announce a new bar. It's a Jungle Cruise themed bar. Opening at Disneyland Hotel. You march into your boss's office and you say, I need to work on this bar. What was it about tiki culture or whatever that was that drew you and compelled you so much that you walked into a boss you had just met a couple weeks ago and felt ready to start making demands? What was it that drew you to that?
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I like to live by tell me no.
Yeah.
What's the worst that's gonna happen? Okay, you told me no. All right, I'll go back to my thing. Okay, big deal. I mean, I do that all the time. Just tell me no. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna beg you. I'm gonna cause a scene, but then tell me no and I'll go away. Yeah, it wasn't even the tiki culture as much as just Adventureland. You
Yeah.
know, I again, all the stuff behind me of
Yeah.
my Indiana Jones stuff and just loving Adventureland. And like you said, they didn't say it was, I don't think they said it was a tiki bar. They said it was a Jungle Cruise inspired bar.
Right.
So my mind wasn't thinking tiki at all. And kind of still doesn't. I mean, even I don't really consider either Trader Sam's a tiki bar, you know,
Mhm.
by the means of stereotypical means of a tiki bar. I look at them as more just adventure-y hangouts that, you know, you could easily, especially Anaheim, that you could easily picture Indiana Jones and Ned Land and all those guys just sitting at the bar having a drink as they pass through the jungle. But yeah, it was just yeah, I'm doing this. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's have fun. I knew Jungle Cruise, you know, I had that in my pocket that I had worked Jungle Cruise for a year and a half. Um, I knew Adventureland. I knew all that. So it was like, yeah, worst
Sometimes,
case, worst case, he tells me no.
right. Sometimes something just hits you in the face and you're like, you know what?
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. I'm
Doing
going
it.
for
Yeah. And I think to be fair, he did tell me no.
it.
Be- because well, what he said is he goes, one, what are you talking about? Because again, we always find out about stuff once it's posted on the blog.
Nice.
And then it was, for those who don't know, there's the office in Glendale, which was the main WDI office. Then, if you draw the family tree, then off of that, it splits to each park has their own little remote trailer of WDI people, 10, 20 people. Then off of that, way down here is like hotels. So I was as far away from being on that team as humanly possible. He was like, one, it's an Anaheim project. Two, it's a hotel project, which is even further disconnected from us. And I was like, I don't care. Figure it out. Just get me a meeting. I just got to be in the room. Like I'll work it out later. Just make it happen. And thankfully he did. So
Yeah. Thankfully, I think for all of us, because, you know, you go to work on it and your official title for that was set decorator, but
yeah.
you're also show writer and an art director for
Yeah,
both.
it kind of again was another blessing of timing because yeah, I was the set decorator. I was the prop guy. That was my on paper role. But then our art director Ray Spencer, who he and I did several things together at WDI, he was ramping up and swamped with Buena Vista Street,
Mhm.
which we later did together. So he was like, you know, yeah, your boards look great. Have fun. Then we had Kevin Rafferty, who was our writer, which started out, hey, Kev, I know Jungle Cruise. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do this. And I'll write you some stuff. And then I remember going, Kevin, I need the backstory for Sam's. I need to start buying. I need to know what direction we're going. I don't have time. I'm swamped on Cars Land. I don't have time. Okay, that's fine. I get it. I'll write something. I'll send it to you. You tell me if it works. But because I had to have a backstory. I had to have my starting point. And then he goes, yeah. All that sounds good. And I said, hey, if you want, I'll start writing stuff and I'll just send it to you and you can approve it. Cause I got to start making plaques for all the props. I got to start there was a lot of writing components. And then eventually that got to the point of, I don't even have time to open your emails. I trust you. You know what you're doing. Have a good time. If you burn the place down, call me. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Godspeed. And yeah, it just snowballed from there. So yeah, then it became, I was there all day, all night. I was training the bartenders on how to work their jokes, how to work their spiels. So I would work 8, 10, 12 hours a night installing props, go sleep for a few hours, and then come back and work with the bartenders all day and sit in meetings with them while they're making drinks and while they're doing it. And they go, I don't like that joke. And okay, well, I'll write you a new one, whatever. So yeah, it just kind of snowballed into this big thing that ultimately, I think at the end of the day, what's the worst thing the new kid's gonna do is burn down the 30-seat bar at the hotel that we don't even know is going to work yet.
Yeah.
I always like to tell that when we open on opening morning, there were 4 people.
They really needed a drink, those 4 people.
They were hurting. 11 o'clock. They had some sorrows.
Yeah.
And of course, by that night it was busy. But yeah, when we opened, it was 4 people. So yeah, I don't think anybody at Disney had thought, well, this will really work.
Yeah.
it'll be something new, it'll be fun, no problem. And then of course by the time we opened Grotto, and there's 3 days of people waiting outside, and it's just it was a zoo.
There's still 3 days of people waiting outside.
I read that my wife read me that the other night. She goes, Sam's opened the other day, and it was 5-hour wait, and and I'm like, it's been open 6 years.
Yeah,
whatever. But
you got to get back. They got to get back. Nature's healing.
It's a wonderful, humbling thing to go, hey, it's still busy. Okay, cool.
How do you start on a project like that when it comes to creating the props, to finding the props? I mean, I assume there's some sort of budget, but is it, hey, I need to get X number of props, or is it just, let's see what happens?
Yeah, well, a little of both. So you have your budget, and then you have your layout, you have your blueprints, you have all of that, and you just kind of go, okay, 200 things on that wall. Let's ballpark it. It was funny because originally when I did Anaheim, and you can find these pictures online, I did Photoshop elevations of the walls, and I think they put them in the blue sky cellar at one point, so they're out there. And I had planned, this frame goes here, this mask goes here, blah blah blah. And then I was like, this isn't right. I'm like, there are a bunch of drunk skippers that are decorating this bar for their headhunter buddy. Like, they're not planning where stuff goes. So then I switched over into, I'm just going to buy as much stuff as I can fit in my budget.
Yeah.
As much as humanly possible, which in Anaheim turned out to be about 1,600 individual props. And then I used every single piece. I mean, there's nothing. I think there's maybe 10 things that didn't go into Anaheim that ended up in Orlando.
Right.
And I just used it all in frames and all that. And if you really get in there, you can see that there's aging on the stuff that's deeper in the wall that's than what's closer to you, because it's been there longer, and it's all that. And then I had a heck of a time breaking the Disneyland install team, who I love dearly because they're all great, with not using a level when hanging up a picture frame.
Oh gosh.
Because again, that's what they do. Everything looks magical, perfect. And I'm like, eyeball it, just hang it on the wall. It's fine. And it took about 3 or 4 days to break them of using a level. And even when we did the first Christmas overlay, the second Christmas overlay, I'm in there with them, and Christmas overlay nights were fun because I designed that whole overlay, went in and did it with them the first few years. And you literally, the bar closes at 2 and it opens at 11. That's your window to make Christmas happen. You don't shut down for a day and a half. Like, that's it. So you're moving. So when we did the second year, I remember I was hanging up the Christmas lights around the perimeter, and I hit this Clark Griswold sized knot.
Oh yeah.
Just this giant ball. And I fought with it for a few minutes, and then I went, screw it, this is stupid. And I just literally hung the ball on the wall and then just kept going. Yeah. So I was like, that's what they would do. This isn't Small World Christmas. This is Trader Sam's Christmas. So yeah, that's what these fools would do if they were decorating. Just put that up. It's fine.
Throw that OCD medication out the window. It's not needed here.
Don't go into Sam's if you're OCD.
No,
it's not. It's not going to end well for you.
It'll be bad.
Don't do that.
Yeah, it's not going to end well for a lot of people in there.
No.
And when it comes to just set decorating in general, and I mean, we can put it through the prism of Trader Sam's as well. How much of it is just feeling versus learning? I feel like you kind of just have to be born with this creative eye, right?
Okay, sure. Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah. No, it is kind of, and again, it just comes back to history and all of that. I mean, I watch a ton of TV shows. I watch a ton of movies. I steal from the best. I was watching Doom Patrol the other day, and there was a gorgeous little set in Paraguay or something where they showed up, and I freeze framed it and was taking pictures of it. And I was like, I'm going to make my booth at the next Orlando MegaCon look like that, because that's really cool, and I've got files on my phones of just things. I mean, I'll walk down the street and see a rusty street sign, and I'll document the heck out of it for rust examples and how that works in the real world and how that looks. I tend to at least during my time there, and even a little since, my niche was kind of the real world stuff more than the Toontown, Fantasyland, stuff. I like the real world stuff. Very, very few pieces in Sam's were fabricated. All of it is, the 98% of it is stuff that I found that is all real world stuff. Which is great for me, and I think it's great for the show experience. It's horrible for WDI, because at the end of every project they want you to do a binder of where you found stuff. So if something is broken, if somebody steals something, they flip through it and they go, oh, here it is, he bought it here. Not on Sam's. Every piece is unique to either Sam's. And yeah, you just find what feels right, and you start adding that character. You put stuff in the bookcase. Well, obviously some of the books probably slipped. If that book slipped and it knocked over that hula girl, she's going to be laying, and you just start thinking of reality of what would happen, so it's more fun than just we did a lot of that on Pandora in the labs and stuff. It's fun to just think that real world stuff. I just 2 weeks ago working at SeaWorld on Hallow Scream here in Orlando, I was suited up in my Tyvek suit, blood all over me, doing blood through one whole house, and me and my buddy were going through and literally going, okay, if I'm a scientist and I'm stuck in this Arctic base and a zombie eats me and I'm hurting, so we would bloody up our arms and then just drag them down the wall that he's limping down this hallway. And it's just stuff that you go, it helps break up it's just a blood splatter. Oh, it's another blood splatter. It helps break it up. And then if somebody's actually paying attention, which nobody is because they're all getting scared and have their eyes closed, but if you really look at it, we did tell a story through that whole house of I did one that was zombie hand blood, him just dragging them down the walls, which led to these giant massacres of eating scientists. But yeah, it helps bring it up, and it's more fun to be paint me with blood, let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna go down the wall. It's just, you got to have fun doing it, but then ultimately it makes sense, and you go, oh, I get it, okay, cool. And then everything in that house is not just I threw paint on the wall there, I threw some on the wall there, I threw someone, we did one that was, okay, if the zombie grabs me and throws me against the wall and then starts eating my neck, and it was you can see the outline of this body against the wall being eaten, and it's just, it makes it's more fun, it makes more sense, it's real, it's all that, which again nobody notices.
I mean, you're sick. You're a sick freak, but whatever.
Thank you very much. I've been called much worse. But yeah, no, if they notice, it's great. We did, like I said, we did that in Pandora in the labs of in the big room where the avatar is in the tank. All the desks in the middle of the lab were all unique characters. So it was, I remember putting on the wall in the prop trailer, I cast it. In my mind, I was like, these scientists, who are they? And I think I had Rachel McAdams as one, and I had Philip Seymour Hoffman as one. And I was like, okay, now we see them. Now we go from there. And my favorite was the Philip Seymour Hoffman one, because he was him in Twister.
Okay, gotcha.
That guy. That really eccentric, crazy guy. So he was the one that was always trying to kill the velocifungus. So if you walk past that part of the desk, his notes are crazy and they're frantic, and this thing can't get out. And it's, if you really are standing there and read it all makes sense to that scientist, where across the desk, her notes are very well kept and hers are clean, and there's a picture of her dog, and there's just little things like that. It just makes it so much more fun.
That's incredible. I just want to say that again, just so that everyone can get that clear. So Brandon, when you were doing the scenes in Flight of Passage, the lab scenes, you came up with backstories and created these scientists just in your head, and then designed their desks according to
and we had a great Mark Levine was our writer on Pandora, and he was great, and I love Mark. I love working with Mark. So he said, he would come and go, here's the 5 different scientists, this is what they all do. But it was just so helpful to me to be able to see them and put a face with them, because then you go, Well, obviously, she's not going to wear a jacket that looks like that. She would wear this and hang that over her chair. And he's not going to wear that hat. He'd wear a big bucket hat. You know, like you could just immediately associate and know who they were, which just opened the whole world to, oh, now I know how to decorate their desks. Yeah, no problem.
When it comes to getting props and acquiring props, you've been doing it for quite a while, and you have many different, a tiki bar here, haunted mansion, Pandora. Do you have like a Rolodex of places of like, I'm going to this store, we gotta go?
Yeah. You've got your places that you go, oh, you want 1920 stuff, you gotta call Joe over here. There are that. It's a little trickier in Orlando. You don't have the resources you do as say LA, because we're not filming movies in Orlando anymore. Right. But there are the places, and luckily, and they're great too, that you just go, hey, I'm looking for this, and usually they'll call you, they'll find it. They know the people that rent the booths in their antique mall. They'll make some phone calls. But yeah, you definitely go, oh yeah, here, you need that, call them. I did that the other day, actually, for working on Sorrow Droner up in North Carolina. I had some big steamer trunks that I found on Craigslist. This older gentleman restored steamer trunks, and they were beautiful. So I called my buddy at WDI and I said, hey, do you need steamer trunks for Jungle Cruise? And he's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, okay. But then 2 days later, he's like, yeah, they want trunks. Where were those trunks? So, we all kind of help each other out, and we all keep track of, oh yeah, go to that place.
So here's an interesting question. I don't know if you've ever done it or ever heard of it. There are a lot of sites, and there used to be a couple stores in Orlando that sold props from extinct attractions.
Yes.
Did you ever, or have you ever heard of anyone buying something from an extinct attraction that was in a theme park, maybe down the road, to put it in a different kind of theme park? You ever hear that?
Yeah, I did that.
Really?
Yeah, I did that.
Wow.
I don't know where it ended up, which makes me sad, but it was hilarious, and everybody thought it was hilarious. At Universal, this was before I worked at Universal. At Universal Orlando, there's a store called Williams of Hollywood where they sell stuff from the park once it's done. Great idea. Everybody loves that, right? Everybody wants that stuff. So I was in there one day, and they had the Dorothy machine from Twister, which is the thing that you put all the ping pong balls in. It's send it in this. So it was sitting there, and it wasn't real expensive. And I just went, okay, I'm going to put that in Pandora.
Yeah.
Just made me laugh, made me happy. And we bought it, and we took it to Pandora, and I put it in the trailer, and everybody would come and see it and just think it was hilarious. And to this day, I don't know where it went. I don't know where it went. And yeah, I just thought it was really funny. And because it was like, it would cost me more. I did the same thing. This is a sad story. I did the same thing. I was driving around one day, and in one of the dumpsters behind Magic Kingdom, literally in one of the dumpsters, were all of the parts for all of the locomotives at Big Thunder.
Oh.
So the big rounded piece that goes over the smoke, so that says Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, all that, piles of them in the dumpster. So I freaked out, and I was like, but my mind was working of going, they look like giant tanks.
Yeah,
I can put them on a wall. I can repaint them, put them on the wall. So I went and threw my gloves on and pulled out like 8 or 9 of these locomotive tanks from Big Thunder trains, put them in the trailer, and I don't know if they ever went in or not.
Man,
I left Pandora right after, and I went to Universal right before we really started the bulk of install. So I had done all my purchasing. I had installed the helicopter. I had done a ton of stuff. And then WDI had told me that they didn't have work for me anymore after Pandora. So I was like, okay. But Universal had work for me. So I left early, which I don't think anybody blamed me. And it was hard because I was enjoying Pandora a lot. And then the hardest was the day of hey, tell Joe what you're doing. And I was like, oh God, no, please, no. but Joe was great and understood, and he's like, oh, that's a great project, and it was for the Universal Beijing Park, and which was being led by other former WDIP, so everybody was good. And thankfully I got out at a time when a lot of the people then got laid off after Pandora, didn't have anything to go on to. So, but yeah, so I don't know where Dorothy is. She could be in there somewhere.
And that Joe that you're referring to, of course, Joe Rohde,
The man himself.
So
Joe is I'll tell you a funny story about Joe. Joe was like going to college every day. It was like sitting in a lecture every day, and you're like, I don't have enough paper for all the notes I'm taking. That was Joe. I first met him on Trader Sam's. Someone had said, hey, go sit down with Joe and show him all of the tribal masks that you had bought to see how they are, to make sure they're okay, to make sure there's nothing, inappropriate or whatever. And I sat down with him and I printed out pictures of all of them. And he was like, all right, let's take a look. And he goes, yeah, no, no. Like at that speed, wow. He could look at these and he'd push them away and he goes, all right, let's talk about these no's and let me explain to you what they're not bad and you can hang them up, but I want to explain to you what they represent and what they mean and what they, so that you can put an appropriate plaque underneath them or what. So yeah, working with Joe was amazing. And on Pandora, we had our own props trailer out in the parking lot, we had our own conference room. We had a big showroom of first article pieces for like the restaurant and a bunch of cool stuff. But Joe would always come and hang out with us because nobody ever thought to look for the, creative lead hanging out with the prop guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got pictures of Joe sleeping on the floor, using a roll of paper towels as a pillow, whatever. And it was great. And learn from that man. I mean, it's nuts, the stuff that you wouldn't think of. I mean, even now, if you look at his Instagram page, the stuff he writes, and you're like, I wouldn't have thought that.
You can't not learn something following that man on Instagram.
It's not possible. It's not possible. You learn that you're not as smart as you thought. That's what
probably
you learn.
The biggest thing you learn. Yeah.
You learn, I'm an idiot.
That's smart.
Because Joe's he's on it. He's on it.
So you mentioned it a little bit, the helicopter in Pandora.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I walked past it before I actually realized, oh my God, there's a helicopter over there.
Look at that. There's that wrecked helicopter. Yeah, we built it, and I still have all the pictures of when we installed it. And it looked great when we installed it because it was just rusty and looked like it had, been there a while, but had tons of character and battle damage and really looked like it had seen some action. But then Joe was like, no, we wanted to make it look like Pandora it's been reclaimed by nature. Okay, I get it. And now how long's Pandora been open? It's been open a while. So now it really looks like it. When it first right. Pandora first opened, and I was like, you just spray painted it green. Like that looks weird. But now it really looks good. And plants have grown into it and all that. But man, yeah, we poured some detail into that helicopter that nobody sees. That cockpit was detailed. I had actually purchased a cockpit from a helicopter in Israel.
Wow.
And so it has all the buttons and knobs and switches and missile launches. I mean, it's got everything. And then the big metal seat, like all that stuff in there. And yeah, you couldn't, if you got a really good zoom lens, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great.
Growing up, you were in Central Florida, going to the parks all the time.
Yeah.
Now, when you go back and you go back on your free time or whenever, sure. How different is it walking around the parks for you? Are you constantly looking at like, well, that's out of place, or come on, we missed a spot over here,
Yeah, no, it's a blessing and curse. I mean, I can do that anywhere. I can do that at the grocery store. I can do that anywhere. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse because it's, your mind's just always going and you're like, just shut up and let me enjoy this for a minute. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are. Even looking at the Academy Museum in Los Angeles, the movie museum that they're opening, they restored Jaws and they have him hanging, but he's hanging from the ceiling above the escalator.
Okay.
And everybody goes, wow, it's Jaws. That's really great. And I go, what a stupid place to hang him. Like he should be if it were up to me, he should have been hanging between the first and second floor, so you would walk over the railing and look down, and there he is, because that's the only way we've ever seen him, is coming up at you. Where's John? I have John. Where is he? He's on the other shelf. I was going to do a demonstration.
That's okay.
But you know, and you go, that's the photo op, you know, that's the over the shoulder, there's me, there's Bruce, you know, type of thing. So yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, because I'm always the Figment 50th golden statues that they posted the other day. I was like, he's gorgeous, he looks great, he should be in the middle of the fountain at the pavilion where the original Figment topiary was in the 80s. Like, they should be in their pavilions. But yeah, so it's a blood. It's hard, but usually I just walk around, just keep my mouth shut. To the best of my ability, hopefully. Otherwise, my wife just slaps me and goes, just take a day off.
Please.
Let's just go do this. Come on.
Gotcha. You know, there's so many other projects you worked on beyond Trader Sam's, and I think we'd be remiss, but we've talked about a few of them, but I just kind of want to go through some greatest hits here, and I'm just going to read them off, and then we can kind of circle back on them. You were also set decorator for the Haunted Mansion update for Disneyland's 60th anniversary, including adding in the Hatbox Ghost. You were set decorator for the Matterhorn update for Disneyland's 60th. Set decorator for all the new Star Tours around the world. The Star Tours, The Adventure Continues. Set decorator for Buena Vista Street at Disney California Adventure. Set decorator for Iron Man Experience at Hong Kong. Set decorator, is this right, for the entirety of Shanghai Disneyland Resort?
No, I didn't work on Shanghai at all.
Okay. I don't know where I found that then.
And funny, yeah, dear Lord, somebody, whoever, if any, thankfully no one did the entire thing, and they probably would have.
That's why I was like, what?
They wouldn't be around anymore. Quick story on Shanghai is we were all in a meeting. Prop department had staffed up. There was only about 4 of us full time in the prop department. They had staffed up to about 12 to 15 people during Shanghai. And in a meeting, I said, who's going to watch the rest of the parks?
Yeah.
Because, like, I get we're building Shanghai, but that doesn't mean Paris isn't going to be doing stuff. That doesn't mean Pandora is not coming. Like, who's doing everything else? So I was, okay, smart guy. So I had every other park around the globe at that time. That year, I had 16 attractions to open.
Oh, my gosh. 16 attractions.
And that was the year of the 60th, which 3 of those opened on the same day.
You know, I just talked to Ridley Pearson, who wrote The Kingdom Keeper.
Oh, yeah.
And he's great. He's awesome. And I asked him, you know, how can you switch your mind? Because he also writes adult fiction.
Sure.
You know, like thrillers, suspense. I'm like, how do you switch your mind from writing, you know, a murder mystery here to now I have to write a child-friendly book about Peter Pan or the Kingdom Keepers or whatever.
Right.
This list, and you say, you know, you're working on 16 attractions in 1 year. How do you go from something like, I don't know if these were the attractions, but you're working on Matterhorn one day, you're working on Iron Man the next, or whatever it is. It's completely different worlds. How do you just switch that in your head?
So it's a lot of notes.
Yeah.
And you go, what meeting am I going to now? Where's my note? Okay, give me my Iron Man notebook. Okay, what are we talking about? Okay, cool. I'll be right back. And then you run up down the stairs and you go, okay, what are we talking? Haunted Mansion? Okay, we need this, and this. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I need skis and this and that. You know, it's just a ton of notes. But then it's nice when you're out shopping, because then you go, ooh, let me get that. Okay, that's good. Ooh, yeah, I can use that in Mansion. Ooh, I can use that in Matter. You know, and you just start so you come back, you look like a crazy bag person, because you just have nothing makes any sense. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. There's a photo, I think it was on my website for a while, and it was like me with hat boxes for the Hatbox Ghost that I found at a flea market, with a tuba around me, with carrying, ski, and you're just like, just out prop shopping. Yeah.
Another day at the office.
Another day at the office. No big deal. Yeah. It gets crazy, but I think that's another reason why I like the real world stuff, is because you could do that. You can take one shopping trip and buy for 10 things, and go, I'm going to get the most out of that trip because I have all of these attractions that I can buy for on that one trip. So yeah, it's kind of nice.
When you're working with things that have huge fan hoods, like when you're redoing Haunted Mansion, or you're starting from scratch with the Iron Man Experience, right, Marvel, huge fan hood. Do you find that it's much more pressure to do those ones when compared to like a Buena Vista Street or even a Pandora starting from scratch with that?
It not honestly, not really, because like for instance, like Iron Man was interesting because it was the first Marvel project.
Mm-hmm.
So the creative team went, these are the props we want.
Gotcha.
And every once in a while I'd go, okay, well, can I add this? And they'd go, okay, that's fine. Or they'd be like, no, we don't want that, and you'd fight for stuff. I remember having a lot of things in that one that I fought for, and thought would make a better case or display or whatever that didn't get in because they knew what they wanted. But when you have something like Buena Vista, I kind of feel like that's where the stress is because nobody knows.
Right.
So it really has to be good because it doesn't exist anywhere else. It doesn't, you haven't seen it on screen and you go, well, there's the Mark IV suit,
Right.
okay, yeah, it's maroon still. Good job. Like, okay. But where you're doing something new, like a Sam's or like a Buena Vista or Grizzly Peak or whatever, there's things that people are going to want to see, but they don't know what it is yet. But they'll tell you if it's not there.
Right.
But nobody would go, I remember doing Grizzly Peak and going, okay, it's 50s, late 50s, national parks. And I was like, I want to do a wall in the gas station of coonskin caps. Because Davy Crockett's at the height of fan, but at the time. So I did that. And you just kind of go, but that would make, and then you tie back into that real world, what would be there. Okay, well, what's our time period? Oh, 50s. Well, Davy Crockett stuff would have been huge in a national park, back then. So yeah, I think there's a little more pressure with the original stuff, honestly, because you're making it up.
Right.
You're creating it from scratch, as opposed to, I need a gravitic reversion engine, I need Cap's shield, I need this, and what you need, as opposed to, okay, it's a gas station.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess they're selling camping stuff. I guess they'd have some tackle, they'd have, and you're really trying to go, what would be in there. So yeah, not that there's not stress on, something like the Haunted Mansion. I mean, Jesus, that was nuts. That was so fun. And I just decorated Hatbox's patio for him, but it's like, man, what a treat that was. That was nuts.
With that project, they come to you and they say, hey, we're bringing the Hatbox Ghost into it, or are you part of that discussion?
So that one was funny. So 60th anniversary. So we had Matterhorn, we had Grizzly Peak, and we had Mansion. Mm-hmm. I think we had announced Matterhorn was getting some updates, and it was like, okay. And these were all Ray Spencer art directed projects again. And I think Ray and I did about 7 or 8 things together at WDI. Grizzly Peak, okay. But they didn't announce anything to do with the Hatbox because they didn't want it to get leaked. Yeah. They all had code names. They all had project such and such. And the conference room, you had to have access to the conference room on your ID or you couldn't get in.
Wow.
It was a big deal. And I'll never forget sitting there and them going, okay, we're doing this in Matterhorn. We're doing this. Okay, great. And then X amount of people left. Thanks for coming to the meeting. And X of us stayed. And it was maybe 5 or 6 of us stayed. And they went, we're putting the Hatbox Ghost back in. And it was just, everybody was just like, what's happening? And it was great, and then you're running around trying to find stuff that looks creepy and weird and old for the Hatbox Ghost balcony there. But yeah, it was to get to work on the mansion, it's like, are you kidding me? Like that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't have that much, there's a stack of hat boxes, there's the little wooden dolly, there's a lantern, there's some hat boxes in the attic, and that's about it. But it's like, man, that was fun. I took my time installing that, just so I could spend the night in the mansion by myself several times, which was ultimately terrifying. I spent a birthday in there one night, which was cool. I went around and took pictures of all the ghosts holding my birthday button.
That's awesome.
And my picture blowing out the birthday cake.
Oh my gosh.
Sad thing is, couldn't tell you where those pictures are.
I was about to say, that's got to be behind you, man. You got to have that blown up on the back of the wall.
Couldn't tell you where they are.
Oh.
I know somewhere in here is a picture of me sleeping with the pigs inside of Pirates. which I never worked on Pirates, so that was just a random one-off.
You just jumped
thing.
out of the boat. You were a
Yeah,
guest
I just
that day.
thought it'd be yeah, it's fine. As before, I didn't even work there.
Yeah.
But yeah, couldn't tell you where those mansion pictures are.
Man,
Couldn't tell you.
brutal. You know, there's been so many like really. We're talking about Haunted Mansion. You're working on Haunted Mansion, Pandora, Trader Sam's, Iron Man, all this stuff. It's an incredible resume. Is there a project that sticks out to you that one you wish maybe got a little more love around the parks, like people notice it more, or two, is there one that just really holds a special place in your heart? And don't give me this, each project's like a child crap. You got to pick something.
No. Man. Yeah, I always say with Trader Sam's, I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the one that I'm always flying the flag for, and always, but that's a good one, is the one that pulled me away from WDI, and that was going to do Waterworld.
Wow.
Because it's the highest rated show in Universal Parks history.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around forever. People can take or leave the movie. I love the movie, so it is what it is. Now they're making a new TV show sequel thing, which is great. Told you so. But the show's great, and it's definitely one that a lot of people go, why? But you watch that show, and that show's it's a great show. I mean, no other show in any park history launches an airplane at you in midair that's not attached to anything. That plane is launched off a catapult towards guests. I'm in.
Luck.
But that was a fun one because the opportunity isn't something that comes around a lot. Taking real world things and then sitting there and going, okay, what would they use that for in that world? Okay, it's a stoplight. They don't know what a stoplight is. Mm-hmm. What would they use it for? I mean, the crew did a great job. We built stuff that there was one, they built a harpoon gun out of a crutch, an air tank, and like parts of a golf club. And you just went, yeah, that's what they would do. So it was a once in a lifetime type of show, just because you just got to play and just create stuff. But every day you can go online and Twitter and somebody's going, I don't get it. Show's stupid, and you're like, so it's yeah. And the one we did in Beijing is really great. We redid some of the show elements to where they reset faster, and we really brought it up into the 21st century here. But yeah, the props are fun, and yeah, you don't get that opportunity a lot to do that.
Yeah.
You can do all the other stuff, but that one's a once in a lifetime thing.
For sure.
I guess until it comes to Orlando and I go knocking on the door and begging again. Yeah. But it's now with Beijing, it's in every Universal park around the world except for Orlando.
Wow. Huh. That's so interesting.
Which is weird because Orlando is the hottest.
Right.
That you would want a water stunt show, but
yeah,
it's all right. I'm sure it'll happen eventually.
I think it has to. And
especially with the new TV show, it'll ramp it up again.
Get back into the zeitgeist. Exactly.
Yep.
You talked about, right as you're winding down at Pandora, at Imagineering, you jump ship, you head over to Universal Creative.
Yep.
You talked a little bit about the projects you were working on. Talk a little bit more about anything else that was exciting during that time, but also how different was it working at Universal Creative when compared to Imagineering?
It's very different.
Really?
In good ways. I mean, it was I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. It seemed to be less political.
Mm.
And it seemed to be, let's make fun, cool things. And also with all former WDI people.
Interesting.
I mean, I was working with pretty much a good amount of the team I had on Pandora, and they would show up. A couple months would go by, here'd come another one because they just got done on Pandora. So, we all knew each other. We all had background, but it was mostly just, let's do fun things. I mean, you could pitch things in any meeting, go, what about this? There's a lot of stuff, because when I went over, I was on Beijing, primarily Waterworld, a little bit on Kung Fu Panda Land, land of awesomeness. And there's still things now, and very little on that, because that got pulled a lot. Where Waterworld was real world, Panda was all cartoony props, which ultimately fall under show set. That falls into a different category altogether, and all of that needs to be built.
Yeah.
Props really doesn't do a lot of built stuff. That falls to a different department. So I was there on Panda, but then it kind of pushed that away so I could focus on Waterworld, because it had so much stuff. But even today, there's stuff I look at and go, oh, I forgot I pitched that in a meeting for Panda. Like, oh, I forgot. Oh, that turned out well. Like stuff that I, totally forgot about. And now with the park getting ready to open, you see stuff and you go, oh, that's the water tank that's a fun gag, stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And then towards the end of Beijing, I moved over to Epic Universe for a couple years until COVID came along.
So
made everything stop.
Yeah. So, you probably can't answer a whole lot of this, but Epic Universe, was there a lot of progress made on it in the time that you were there?
Yeah, we were doing good. We were cranking. We had some good stuff. And then it was just and props to, no pun intended, props to Universal. I mean, they kept us working until last November.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, we were all working from home. We were all still plugging along. So, whereas Disney furloughed everybody and laid off tons, we were still working. So, I mean, they were really good to us. They tried to take care of us as long as they possibly could. But even now the project's starting to ramp back up, and, every couple of weeks you'll hear, oh, so-and-so went back. Oh, they went back, that type of thing. But yeah, we were moving, but, I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I think everyone is, especially with that big plot of land out there.
It's a big plot of land.
Huge plot of land. Yeah.
It's as big as what Universal owns now.
I was just about to say, I was just watching a video where they compared the land to all the other parks in Orlando, not just Universal ones. And I mean, all of Animal Kingdom can fit in like the area they have designated for theme park.
Yeah, it's crazy because Universal could build everything that they currently have again inside that land.
Yeah.
2 parks, the water park, all the hotel, like it would all fit in there, no problem.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's a big chunk.
Big chunk. Very intrigued to see
big chunk
what occurs with all that fun stuff.
Which would be great.
Yeah, I do want to talk about some of your newer projects as well, as part of creative director of the Trader Brandon brand.
Yeah, that became a thing. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, right. Hang on, I plug my mic back in. You've made a lot of really cool things through this brand. I mean, apparel, tiki mugs, pins, role-playing games, so much cool stuff.
Action figures. It just kind of spiraled. It started with we did a book called The Field Guide to Tiki Decorating, which I was getting people emailing going, hey, can you write a book about the making of Trader Sam's? And I was like, no, absolutely not. They would hunt me down.
Yeah.
There'd be sniper dots coming through my window.
Right.
But I was like, but I could write a little book just talking about the, mindset and things to think about if you're decorating your home or whatever. So we did that. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And ultimately I always laugh because it's the truth, but it's everything I sell on the website is stuff that I want to buy. I just have to make a lot of them. So I sell off the rest, I wanted a Temple of Doom tiki mug. Well, I got to make 500 of them. So I sell the rest of them. Yeah, that's all it is. But then, it just kind of spiraled out. And then with COVID, I always try to find something occasionally that I've never done before. And I had never written a comic book. So I was like, let's write a comic book. So I did that. And a good friend of mine that writes, or rather draws, the Ghostbusters comics and Back to the Future and Transformers and all that. He wasn't working because it was COVID. So he goes, yeah, let's do it. So he drew it all and we had a great time doing that. And then that snowballed into music. We did a soundtrack for it. Again, I wanted an action figure, so I made it. Um, yeah, just weird, silly stuff. But thankfully, I mean, I just during this watched the mailman go by and pick up boxes out of the mailbox. But thankfully, it's amazing that I can make stuff and people go, I'd buy that. You
Yeah.
know, it shocks me that I go, real okay. I thought it was weird, but okay, great.
I think one project that you can't that isn't being sold online but is much grander in scale that you're currently working on that I want to hear more about is what's the deal with the Sorrow Drowner in
Sorrow
Wilmington, North
Drowner.
Carolina?
Yeah. So yeah, the Sorrow Drowner was something that they came to me years ago. I mean, literally years ago. And I was like, I can't help you. I'm working at Universal.
Yeah.
I'm working at I think I was working at Disney at the time, actually. That's how long ago. And these guys wanted to open this tiki bar, and yeah, I'll hear you out, no problem. And we did that, and then COVID, and you know, it's hard to open a tiki bar. It takes time. So yeah, everything kind of hit, and then they kind of came back and said, "Hey, are you free now?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm free." So we've been working on this bar, and again, I wouldn't call it a tiki bar per
Yeah.
se. It is very much a adventure hangout. It's actually, our story is, it is an old institute of exploration, and all of the professors, all of the scholars are out exploring and digging and doing stuff. So they've left essentially the custodial staff behind to keep the place spick and span, but who knows when they're coming back. So the staff has basically said, well, screw this, we're opening the place up. So they turned the lecture hall into a bar, and instead of, you know, lectures on the stage every night, there's burlesque and fire dancers and, you know, whatever, any magicians, any acts that fit in our time period. And they're slinging drinks behind the bar. So it's just kind of a fun thing. It's 2 stories. We have a room upstairs that is the director's office, which is his private office, which you can reserve if you have a large group of people. But you know, you'll see his desk the way it was left before he went missing, and it's behind, you know, velvet stanchions, and then his collection of personal artifacts around the wall. We have another room across the way we labeled the green room, which is funny because it has essentially been taken over with plants, and it's where the weird stuff is. So shrunken heads and Fiji mermaids and all the weird oddity stuff is in there. There's a balcony, you can watch the show from above. There's the whole downstairs area. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
You know, you've said a couple of times how you don't think they're tiki bars, and I agree with you. There's so much more than that, whether it's Trader Sam's or what
Right,
you're talking
right.
about with Sorrow Drowner. But I do think they have become sort of like, there's no other good phrase to put it, a gateway drug for people
Oh,
to
absolutely,
the tiki
absolutely.
culture.
And you know, it's ridiculously humbling, because I'll get people that come up to me at shows or wherever and go, you know, Trader Sam's is what got me into tiki and all of that. And you know, Trader Sam's is what made me start collecting tiki mugs. Which you always feel bad about that one, because that's a slippery slope. But yeah, no, they very much are. And yeah, I don't think of them as tiki, but I mean, that's the closest thing you're gonna associate them with, sure.
Yeah.
I try not to think of them as tiki, so that the purists don't
Right.
attack me in that, you know, in a dark alley, which thankfully nobody has. But you know, there are the purest tiki bars that, you know, that are beautiful and amazing and wonderful, the tiki teas and the you know, Cliftons and all of those. So yeah, it's it's just a disclaimer that I don't call them a tiki bar, so that I don't have to be strapped down to any of the rules of a tiki bar. But we are paying, and that's our journey. We do have a couple areas where we are certainly paying respect to tiki bars, and tipping our hat with some nice little homage decor. If you know what you're looking at, you'll go, oh, okay, I get it. So
I do think it's just incredibly awesome that, you know, you with this, you have opened people's eyes to this different kind of culture. I mean, you've opened my eyes. You know, I try to look for these places in other cities that I go to, and it's because of places like Trader Sam's that kind of that's how I caught the bug in a lot of ways. And it's just really, really cool.
Well, and it's weird too. And somebody mentioned it the other day, and I was like, oh God, you're probably right. Because again, obviously I'm not the first guy that came across, and said, we're gonna open a tiki bar.
Right.
You had Don Beach, you had Vic Bergeron, Trader Vic, you had the guys at Tiki T that opened, out there, and then Tonga Hut and all these places. But the crazy thing, the thing that kind of freaks me out the most is almost guaranteed that more people have walked through Trader Sam's in the last 10 years than have ever walked through any of those other ones.
Yeah.
And that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. But somebody mentioned that to me the other day, and I was like, God, you're probably right that, they've been around since the 30s or 40s, but you're like, but I guarantee you more people have walked through a Trader Sam's either in Anaheim or Orlando than have ever walked through any of those other tiki bars, which is nuts. So I'm glad that we can open people's eyes to all these other ones, because they're the real deal. We're the theme park version, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's what we are. I mean, you go to some real tiki bars that are squeezing every lime, and the drinks are amazing. We can't do that. We have the amount of drinks that those guys make at a Trader Sam's every night is staggering. So it's like we don't have time to squeeze limes and make everything by hand like some of these other ones. But if we can get you to go to those other ones, then we all win.
Do you have a favorite Trader Sam's drink?
Man. There was one they used to make for me that was literally just straight Gorilla Grog, which is one of the juice ingredients that goes into like all the drinks.
Interesting.
So I used to just order that, and it was great because I'd go in and they would bring it to me, but they would always bring it to me. It would get crazier like every time I'd order it. And I have a picture somewhere. They gave it to me once in like a hurricane glass, but then it had like 4 different straws and like every bit of garnish. And then there was like spoons in it. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was just like a horrible looking thing. It was just chaos. But then people would be like, what is that? Can I order that? Which one's that? And you're like, it was literally, put that in it. Put that spoon in there. It's fine. Made no sense whatsoever, but yeah, it was good.
See, that's the last thing we need. We don't need people thinking there's a secret menu at Trader Sam's, because then that's when it gets even more out of hand. We don't need it.
And there is, but it's nuts. Yeah.
Oh,
mostly in Anaheim, because, Anaheim is a different clientele than Orlando. Anaheim are locals that go to Sam's, and those bartenders know every drink under the sun, and they're all great. Orlando, the bartenders are all great. They know them all, but Orlando's getting people that are once in a lifetime family vacations. They're going to be here once, and that's it. So that Orlando doesn't really get the locals like Anaheim does. So yeah, it's a whole different ball game. But Anaheim has a good secret menu. You can go to any of the bartenders in Anaheim and go, make me this old tiki drink, and they'll go, all right, sure,
all right, I can do it.
They know it. Yeah.
So Brandon, I've taken up way too much of your time, but
that's all right.
I have one final question, and that's because I've been following you on Instagram. You're a great follow on Instagram.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know and you kind of talked about it a little bit. You wrapped up a really cool project working with SeaWorld Orlando, doing set design, set dressing for their inaugural Hallow Scream event.
Yeah, it was fun.
What was that like?
It was fun. I got a call from Kim Grommel, who had been 15 some years at Halloween Horror Nights. He designed one of the guys that designed Jack the Clown, originally. Kim and I worked together on Beijing and all of that, and had a great time. So he's a great friend, and he called literally a couple of weeks ago, and was like, do you want to do a year's worth of work in like 3 weeks? And I was like, yeah, it sounds great. And I love field work. I love install. I love being in there and, getting dirty and all that, obviously with all the blood. And I love Halloween, and I've always wanted to do that. And I told him the other day, because it was me and Kim, and then he brought in Ray Kime, who was another Horror Nights alum from many, many years ago. And then our show director, our creative director, was Patrick Braillard, who again was from Horror Nights. And I'd always wanted to work on the Horror Nights team. And we were all sitting there the other day, soaked in blood and just filthy and cobwebs, and we were just a mess. And I said, it's really great, because as much as I've always wanted to work on Horror Nights, I said, you guys are the ones I always wanted to work with. So, to get to do that now is awesome. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's doing really well. It opened up last weekend, opened up on the 10th, and thankfully I haven't seen any bad reviews. Everything's been great. Everybody seems to be loving it. There's 4 haunted houses. There's 4 zones that we put together. Yeah, it seems to be working. But yeah, I just came in at the end as a nice extra set of hands to run through and finish up some stuff. So a lot of it was done before I got there, but it was a lot of fun to get in there and finish some stuff up and just play in Halloween for a couple of weeks.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm headed down there pretty soon to the Orlando area, so I think I might have to check it out. But
and it's only $40.
I can swing that.
Come
I can swing
on,
that.
it's a heck of a deal. Yeah,
yeah.
It's a good event. It's a good event. The food's good. The drinks are good. The houses are fun. The scare zones are great. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, this has been so great. This really has been like a dream interview of mine. So I was so excited to be able to sit down and talk with you.
I don't know if is that good? Is that bad?
It is.
I don't
No.
I don't know where that ranks.
It is good. It is very, very good. And I know you have a ton of stuff going on. My God, you're a busy guy. You have like book signings coming up, all that stuff.
Yeah. We're going to be out at Gods and Monsters in Orlando on October 6th, signing Mystic Libations, which was another COVID project that we cranked out. And we'll be out there with that on October 6th. And there's always sign. And then after that, I'm headed up to North Carolina to install Sorrow Drowner. There's always something.
Where's the best place everyone can follow you online?
Instagram is probably the best, which is just at trader_Brandon, or traderbrandon.com is the website. But awesome. I have a Twitter, but I don't do too much on there. Other than just stir up stuff. Not really. But that's kind of the point of Twitter, I think. But the bulk of the posting is on Instagram, and then everything's on the website.
Sweet. Of course, we will have all the links to that fun stuff in the episode's show notes page on WDWopinion.com. So be sure to check that out. Brandon, thanks again for joining me.
Hey, anytime. Glad to be here.